Kicking off the list at number 10, Deadpool Kid. Wade in the Wild West. Sign me up. Wade Wilson of Earth 1108 made his first appearance in Deadpool Merc with a Mouth issue 7. Now when we meet him, he's wanted for bank robbery, arson, software piracy, and of course stampeding pygmy goats through an orphanage, you know, everyday things that we always do. And then even in the dusty days, Deadpool still finds a way to cause trouble. He would constantly boast about him wanting to take over the town, and he had his sights set on Sheriff Fury and Bounty Hunter Logan. After getting shot in the head by Earth 616 Deadpool, our main Deadpool, the Kid went down. But he didn't stay down, of course. He survived and was next seen alongside Dreadpool in the hunt for evil Deadpools in the universe. Number 9, Kidpool. Similar name, but much different. Kidpool comes from Earth 10330. Now he made his first appearance in Prelude to Deadpool Core issue 2, and he started his days out as a student of the Xavier Orphanage for Troubled Boys. Now due to his abrasive personality, he of course didn't fit in with the other super kids, so he was lonely most of the time. Now one day he was sent to detention with Scott Summers, and Wade convinced Scott that they should both break out and go to prom instead. I agree, I mean detention during prom, come on, that's just cruel. But in order to convince Scotty Boy to be a rebel, Wade promised him he'd help Scott get with Jean Grey. That ought to do the trick. While at prom, Kidpool caused trouble and even fought Logan. It was a hot mess. Mistress Storm stopped the fight and Kidpool was on his way out when Deadpool arrived and also recruited this Kidpool. And before we continue with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, that would be great. It helps our channel out quite a bit. You guys are the best. Thanks for your support. Now let's get right back to this video. Number 8, Dreadpool. In the reality of Earth 12101, the X-Men brought Wade to Dr. Ben Brighton, aka Psycho Man, in an attempt to cure Wade. Now they wanted him to shut down all these voices in Wade's head, but he didn't do that. He actually did the opposite. Wade was now encouraged to kill everybody in the Marvel Universe. And he started out by going after the Fantastic Four. Reed and the Thing were toast in just a couple of pages. Sue Storm held Dreadpool off by making his head explode, but once he healed, she was next to go. Dreadpool stole a device from Reed Richards that he used to take down the Watcher. So right off the bat, things get ugly. Number 7, Evil Deadpool. Keeping those sinister vibes going, Evil Deadpool is from our 616 main universe. He actually came to life during the pages of Deadpool Volume 4, issue 44. Now it actually all started with Ella Whitby. She was a psychiatrist who was obsessed with Wade Wilson. She was so obsessed that she would keep body parts that he lost over time. She would collect parts of him and then keep them in her freezer, you know, right next to the ice packs, of course. So when Deadpool found out about this creepy old cold collection, he threw them all in the dumpster. He just got rid of them. But that was a mistake because once those body parts thawed out, they fused together to make another evil Deadpool. Just the smell of that freezer alone, I would have tapped out by day 3. Number 6, Wolverine Pool. This next one is a total badass, one of my favorites if you ask me. Brief, but definitely memorable. First appearing in Cable in Deadpool issue 46, we see Wade Wilson after he's undergone the Weapon X program. He has a skeleton bonded with adamantium, and then he's recruited by Dreadpool to take on the evil Deadpool core members. So he joined the battle and killed Deadpool Pulp, but during the fight, main Wade tossed a grenade full of bugs at Wolverine Pool. So the grenade went off and the bugs chewed at Wade's skin, just chewed him apart until nothing was left over except the adamantium skeleton and claws. Definitely the grossest way to go out, that's for sure. Number 5, Death Mask. While I mentioned a botched surgery earlier with Wade, this next one went exactly as planned. On Earth 11683, Reed Richards was able to remove a lethal brain tumor from Wade's head, so now he was better off than ever. No evil voices, and now he was actually a genius. But did he change the world one revolutionary invention at a time? Nope, he was a master criminal. But still, he's smart, I don't know. He built an empire. Wade went by the name Death Mask and killed that world's Victor Von Doom, and his outfit was actually a red version of Doom's. It was pretty sweet, I'm not gonna lie. Even after Death Mask was beaten by our main Deadpool, it didn't end there. Death Mask made a deal with Mephisto in order to release monsters on Earth, one of those monsters being Infernal Hulk. Ouch. Number 4, Dogpool. Wade Wilson of Earth 103173, aka Dogpool, made his first appearance in Prelude to Deadpool Core issue 3. Now Wilson was a dog being used as a test subject for Mascara X, this hot new product that could replenish itself after just one use. How beautiful and lovely and convenient, might I add. Now this version obviously is inspired from real life animal testing and abuse that happens, so it's pretty sweet when Wilson gets superpowers. Now they thought the dog didn't make it after a test, his body turned all corpse corpse-like, so they got rid of it. But those regenerative abilities brought this pet back to life. A circus truck just ended up going by and seeing this immortal dog, and then Deadpool became the starring act of their show. Come and see the death-defying hound. What a headline. He was working there until Deadpool came and also recruited him for the Deadpool Corps. Number 3, Deadman Wade. Coming from the Age of Apocalypse storyline on Earth 295, Deadman Wade was initially part of Apocalypse's Pale Riders. Danny Moonstar would just torture him non-stop. That was his whole thing. But that's gotta be a bit distracting, right? While the Riders were seeking out Avalon, Damask was so annoyed by the torture and the sounds that she strangled Moonstar to death. She just couldn't take it anymore. It's like when my sister would sing Taylor Swift, I'm like, a 4-hour drive, come on. So Deadman Wade wasn't too happy at this point, but when they finally arrived to Avalon, Wade's attack on innocent people was so much that Nightcrawler deemed it necessary to end his life. And he did so by teleporting away whilst grabbing his head. If you want to see Deadman Wade in more agony, begin so with Excalibur issue 1. Number 2, Ultimate Deadpool. Wade E. Wilson from the Ultimate Comic Run, Earth 1610 that is, made his first appearance at Ultimate Spider-Man issue 91. Now he had a pretty rough time when it comes to the Ultimates. The Ultimates are a different story, different origins, but Wade's is still bad. See, in Ultimate Spider-Man, Wade E. Wilson gets recruited to hunt down mutants on live television, which sounds like a pretty cool gig, but the government figured this is what the people want, and honestly, they're not too far off. People love tuning in. This is like the hot show. It's the talk of the town. And his appearance is even more shocking once Spider-Man unmasks him, and the fact that he does so on live television causes Wadey to go nuts. And it was even worse than that because Spider-Man made him feel horrible for how he looked. He said his face smelled like a KFC dumpster on a hot day. What a roast. Oh my god, Spider-Man, relax. And also in Ultimate Spider-Man issue 92, Spider-Man is about to be unmasked himself, but Deadpool prevents it from happening. He says to respect the mask. How ironic. Number 1, Lady Deadpool. We just met Lady Loki and she kind of stole the entire show on Disney+, so we gotta end this list with Lady Deadpool. Wanda Wilson from Earth 3010 made her first appearance in Deadpool Merc of the Mouth issue 7. Now this version of Deadpool cared, dare I say. She wanted to at least feel like she belonged and was part of a bigger, more important movement. So she led an assault force against the crooked General America, which was an evil Captain America in that world, and then she eventually found her place leading the Deadpool Corps, that team I've been mentioning throughout this entire list. In fact, Lady Deadpool was the one to tip off our main 616 Wade on the whole operation. Wade actually tossed Headpool at General America, but then he bit his arm off. Headpool was from the zombie universe, so Wade had to take the General's infected arm with him after he left Wanda's Earth. All the blood, all the arms, all the Deadpools, all the fun. Number 10, Carter Slade. The original Ghost Rider was actually referred to as the Phantom Rider. Carter Slade made his first comic book appearance in Ghost Rider 1 way back in 1967. Born in Ohio in the mid-19th century, Carter had aspirations to become a teacher, so he rode from Ohio to Montana. But during this commute, he was shot by guys dressed up as Native Americans. They were a bunch of white dudes, all of them canceled, immediately canceled. Comics are very dated now, so things like this happen and you're like, okay, let's just see where the story goes. A doctor named Flaming Star took Carter after that point and prayed, he chanted, he did everything he could to save his life. Now the secret ingredient was glowing dust from a shooting star that he had had from earlier and a special cape that he prepared. He saw the shooting star and knew that somebody important was going to come along. Okay, fair. Great call, Flaming Star. Also, great name. Carter's a pretty cool Ghost Rider. I mean, he carries with him these spirit guns, which are way more impressive than spirit fingers. Number 9, Johnny Blaze. Next on the list we have Johnny Blaze, another OG Ghost Rider. He made his first debut in Marvel Spotlight issue 5 in 1971, so 4 years after Carter Slade. Johnny began his mortal days as a stunt performer. He was great at handling a motorcycle, and Johnny became bound to Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance, after he made a deal with Mephisto to save his father, Crash Simpson's, life. You know, one of those classic scenarios we all get into. So now Johnny Blaze and his Hell Cycle control Hellfire and inflict it upon others that he deems evil with the help of his pedant stare. Nicolas Cage actually killed it as the Ghost Rider. I would not mind an older, crazier Nick Cage in the MCU. They can do it. Number 8, Caleb. Coming from Ghost Rider Trail of Tears issue 1, Caleb and his family were attacked one night and Caleb was killed by George Regan and his gang. Not a pleasant time at all, not a good origin. But then cut to 2 years later down the road, Caleb returns from the dead. Voila, how alarming. Brought back by some form of spirit of vengeance, in Trail of Tears issue 2, Caleb's friend Travis Parham returns and finds Caleb in his new ability to control corpses and travel through dimensions via Hellfire. So things have changed for them. The unlikely duo worked together tracking down other members of Regan's gang for, well, his death. They obviously wanted payback. Caleb is sick. He rides a flaming horse and he's got a chain. He's got bling. Bonus points for some devil bling. Number 7, Robbie Reyes. Making his first appearance in all new Ghost Rider issue 1, Robbie was a young LA mechanic living in Hill Rock Heights. His area was full of gangs, so it wasn't exactly easy for him or his brother Gabriel. Now when Robbie heard of a street race offering the winner $50,000, he just had to compete. All that knowledge in cars, he's like, yo, I'm gonna smoke these fools. All that money too would get him and his brother out of there. So while he was winning, he was in first place during this race, he thought that cops were on his tail, so he booked it and eventually hit a dead end. He got out to explain and whatnot and say, hey, sorry, I'm doing a race trying to win some money, but then he realized they weren't in fact officers, but it was already too late. They opened fire on Robbie and he unfortunately did not survive. When the attackers went to burn the car, because evidence, they didn't realize that the car was possessed by a ghost and that ghost possessed Robbie, making him a new Ghost Rider. And of course he had to dish out some sweet payback. This guy's extremely powerful. I mean, in Avengers Volume 8, Issue 25, Robbie uses his chain manifestation and it's so strong that it ripped a Celestial's arm right out of place. How wild is that? Number 6, Danny Ketch. Danny came around in comics nearly 20 years after Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider Volume 3, Issue 1. He was the son of Barton Blaze and Naomi Ketch. So when he was a teenager, Danny and his sister Barbara hit up a graveyard to get the real Halloween spooky vibe, let's do it, and also to take photos of Harry Houdini's grave. Those two things we always want to do on Halloween. While they were there, two gangs started to fight, one led by Deathwatch and the other with henchmen of Kingpin. So Barbara shrieked in fear as everything went down, naturally so. Deathwatch heard her, and then she was shot in the chest with an arrow, just horrible stuff. Danny grabbed her and took off. While he was catching his breath, figuring out what to do with his sister, he saw this beautiful motorbike with a glowing gas cap and touched it. He then became a Ghost Rider whose mission was to go after those who shed the blood of the innocent, such as his sister. Number 5, Alejandra Jones. Entering Marvel Comics in Ghost Rider Volume 7, Alejandra was born and trained alongside other orphans in a temple with one specific goal in mind. Why? To simply become one of the next Ghost Riders. Easy peasy. So when Johnny Blaze was convinced to give up the Ghost Rider curse, the Seeker was then resurrected to pick the next Ghost Rider. That's when Alejandra got her big break. She was first sent to Ohio to fight Scatty, the Red Skull's daughter. She lost, but still, she jumped right into the action. It was happening for her. She was a very powerful Ghost Rider nonetheless, but her reign came to an end once Johnny realized that he goofed up and he got his status back. After that point, she was upset. She swore revenge on Johnny, of course, because I'd be upset too if I had that power and then all of a sudden it was taken away from me because some other guy learned a lesson. I'd be like, great, I'm glad you're good. Can I still have that? Number 4, Ghost Rider 2099. Kenshiro Cochran made his first appearance in Ghost Rider 2099, issue 1, back in 1994. He was a hacker who rolled with a gang called the Hotwire Martyrs, residing in Transverse City. This gang was so badass, one day they stole encrypted data after hacking a fiber optic trunk line. Just as intense as a heist, for sure, just as badass. So while this was happening, in comes another gang, even more intimidating, called the Artificial Kids. The kids with a Z, of course, to make it cool. All these cool, nerdy gangs. They actually killed everyone. It was indeed a massacre. It was very intense. No jokes this time. Kenshiro, street name Zero, decided to transfer the encrypted file to his girlfriend during this, and at the same time hack cyberspace to erase all his headwear implants. So Elon Musk's future is basically confirmed. We can look forward to that, nice. Then he wakes up in this new cyberspace called Ghostworks. Zero was sent back to the real world as their agent of change. The machines created a Cybertech 101 warbot, souped it up with nanotech weaponry, camo abilities, self-repair, and of course, a copy of Zero's personality downloaded into his neural net. Very futuristic, different version of Ghost Rider, but still counts. Number 3, Red Hulk Ghost Rider. In the Circle of 4 storyline, Captain America ordered General Ross to go after Venom, and while they went at it, Mephisto's kid, Blackheart, brought part of hell back up to Earth. Lovely. This all takes place in Venom Volume 2, Issue 12. And it's great timing because Red Hulk made an alliance with Venom, X-23, and Ghost Rider. They were all actually killed in this battle. And then in Hell, Mephisto did his thing and then offered the heroes another chance, all that devil stuff. And then all they had to do on their part was take down Blackheart. They got the Spirit of Vengeance and planned to get it to Johnny Blaze so he could become Ghost Rider again. So the Red Hulk at one point had the symbiote and the Spirit. How intimidating is that? Number 2, Frank Castle, aka the Rider, coming from the pages of Thanos Volume 2, Issue 13, the Thanos wins storyline. So the Punisher actually died a pretty random way. A piece of debris from a building fell on him, and then he ended up in hell. Okay, that's one way to go. He was pretty eager for revenge, so he signed up a few contracts with Mephisto, became the last Ghost Rider, and then headed back to the battle. Only the thing was, when he returned, the dust had already settled long before. Thanos was gone, the planet was empty, it was a wasteland. The new Ghost Rider was quite bored for many years. Even Mephisto stopped answering his calls, and then he started losing his mind. Galactus then eventually came along, and Ghost Rider offered the dead planet in exchange for another go at Thanos. So they traveled the cosmos together. How fun, little duo. They found Thanos, Thanos cut Galactus' head off and promised the Ghost Rider more evil than he could punish in 1,000 lifetimes, so Ghost Rider became his servant for a bit in the comics. Shaking hands with all the devils now, eh Frank? Okay. And finally, number 1. Ghost Spider. Coming from Earth 11638, aka the Perfect World, this Peter Parker has a much brighter beginning. Meaning Uncle Ben actually never passed away and gave the whole great responsibility speech. Instead, he just continues to encourage Peter to become a stronger Spider-Man as he gets older. A little pressure, okay, how does that affect this Peter Parker long term though? Where's the butterfly effect difference in this universe with Uncle Ben being alive? Well, Uncle Ben pushes Peter to abduct Spider-Man from other worlds and absorb their life force via this portal that Parker Technologies proudly created. Now eventually our Earth 616 Spider-Man shows up, they fight it out, our Earth 616 Peter Parker comes out on top with the amazing Spider getting his soul sucked into the machine. The perfect Spider-Man spirit was then trapped in the underworld, and then from here it only gets more strange. Literally, Banner at this time was the current Sorcerer Supreme. So he freed that Peter in his astral form, but Peter absorbed all these spirits of the damned while he was down there. So when he came back, he was now Ghost Spider. What a series of horrible but also cool events.
Number 10, Sea Lord. I mostly like this version of Namor just because I like his medieval and kind of Greco-Roman really garb here. Sea Lord is the medieval version of Namor who was created when Morgan Le Fay warped reality, putting all heroes in a medieval-like setting and imprisoning Scarlet Witch, who was one of the few who remained conscious that this reality was not actually the true reality. Eventually, Wanda, utilizing Wonder Man, would free everyone from Morgan Le Fay's altered reality and also defeat the evil sorceress. But until that happened, Sea Lord aka Namor, like the other heroes, would believe that he was a member of the Queen's Vengeance. Everyone who had been fighting previous to the reality warp against Morgan Le Fay, now stylized as the Queen in this reality, sought to protect her as part of her elite guard, the Queen's Vengeance, Namor included. Ultimate Namor. This version of Namor is not actually the ruler of Atlantis, but is considered a false king. In the Ultimate Universe of 1610, Namor is an ancient Atlantean criminal who was imprisoned and kept asleep for 9,000 years. Kind of like a mummy, but without all the being dead and looking gross parts that come with that monster type. Namor initially proved to be too powerful for the Fantastic Four to handle, and at one point threatened Manhattan with a giant tidal wave unless Sue gave him a kiss, which she did, and keeping his promise, he ceased his attack and returned to the ocean. I like that he was just like, I just want a kiss and then I'm out, so it's cool. It's cool, I'm easy to appease even though I could just literally wipe the floor with all of you. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you love Namor as much as I love Namor, please be sure to show your love by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, Conqueror Namor. This Namor doesn't really have any fancy name, so I kinda just decided to give him one. So just so you know, this isn't like an official term or an editorial term, this is an Amanda term. He shows up in Volume 1 of Exiles issue 15 and hails from the alternate Earth of 1016. He ends up being defeated and likely killed by the Mimic of Earth 12, who is a member of the Exiles team. Namor here is obsessed with conquering and appears to have become king of Latveria as well as Atlantis. His goal is to win all wars against any who oppose him, continuing years and years of war. But why? Well, because he knows that in fighting against the Latverians, or any who still oppose him, it will only bring Atlantis more glory. Mimic attempts to talk sense risen to Namor as he has found a friend in the version of Namor from Earth 12, his own reality. Unfortunately, Conqueror Namor only cares about just that, conquering and greater wars and victories for Atlantis, and he will hear none of it. And so Mimic is forced to destroy him, although the Namor of Earth 1016 does put up a really good fight at least. Number 7. Hippie Namor. This version of Namor hails from Earth 71853 and made his first appearance in 2018's Exiles in issue 3. When the Exiles arrived in Hippie Namor's home reality, he sensed that they really needed to chill. He offered them whatever their heart desired to help them calm down, as they seemed to be wound up a little too tight. However, the reason for their mood was soon revealed after the Time Eater arrived and devoured Hippie Namor and his reality, destroying it temporarily. I say temporarily because once the Exiles were able to defeat the Time Eater, the reality of 71853 and its version of Namor were restored. Yay! Hippie Namor lives. Number 6. Emperor Numenor. Emperor Numenor hails from the reality of Earth 311, that of the 1602 universe. Here, Namor is not a ruler of Atlantis, but a ruler of what is referred to as Ben Asylum, the city of the gods. It's basically just Atlantis, as it's still, deep below the ocean in a trench, but it just sounds cooler in the 1602 universe. A city of the gods, you know what I mean? Here, Namor ruled Ben Asylum with his cousin Rita, who he hoped would marry someone soon. He himself became enamored with Susan Storm of the Four from the Fantastic. Unfortunately, he would be unsuccessful in winning her as his bride, as Count Otto von Doom betrayed him in their scheme, double-crossing and killing Namor. Number 5. King Namor. King Namor hails from the reality of Earth 6706, and here is married to Susan Storm, and together they have a son named Gambit, another son named Johnny, and 2 daughters, Erin and Ari. Gambit is like kind of a blonde Namor in terms of his armor and his aquatic abilities, though he also possesses his mother's ability to create shields, though he does so telekinetically. But Gambit here walks and talks like the Remy of Earth 616, which is kinda weird, but I'm pretty into it. Namor here gives me a kind of ancient Egyptian vibe when it comes to his dress and his darker skin. I just really love this alternate Namor, and I think he and his family are super cool. I'm also just a fan of any reality where Sue and Namor end up together, as yeah, I kinda ship them. Like, I'm not well, I kind of am sometimes anti Reed and Sue, but I'm not anti Reed and Sue right now, but I just think Namor and Sue's a good couple. You can find King Namor and his family in the new Exile series from 2008. He makes his first appearance in issue number 1. Number 4. Aquamariner. Aquamariner is the amalgam version of Namor. He's a combination of both Marvel's Namor, the Submariner, and DC's Aquaman. I mean, of course, these two would be combined together. It just makes so much sense as a combo. He first appears in JLX issue number 1 out of Amalgam Comics. Being a combination of both heroes, he has both of their abilities. In this reality, Namor was once king of Atlantis, but was forced to come to the surface after the destruction of the city Poseidonus in order to protect the oceans from further harm. Arthur Mackenzie was one of the founding members of the All-Star Winners Squadron and would go on to join up with the Justice League X-Men, aka the JLX. Number 3. Prime Minister Namor. Although he is only mentioned in issue 15 of the 2001 Exile series, this version of Namor sounds pretty impressive, which is why I included him. And I personally love the idea of him as a character. I hope we actually get to meet him at some point. He is the friend of Mimic who hails from Earth 12. On Earth 12, Namor is the Prime Minister and ruler of Atlantis. He has brought about peace between the surface world and the underwater civilizations. On Earth 12, mutants are accepted and even celebrated, being treated as celebrities, as are superheroes in this reality. Although we never meet him, we do know that Mimic feels really guilty after being forced to kill an alternate version of Namor because of Prime Minister Namor's existence in Mimic's home reality. Number 2. Mr. Nimbus. Gosh, I really love this alternate version. People kept telling me after this episode came out that I really needed to watch this new first episode of Rick and Morty, and boy were they right. I love when two fandoms that I love parody one another or intersect in some way. It's just so cool. And this is definitely a case of that. Mr. Nimbus is Rick Sanchez of Rick and Morty's arch nemesis, and he was definitely created to be a parody of Marvel's anti-hero Namor. Namor himself is underwater royalty and is also known for being a very sexy and stubborn Atlantean, which is exactly the model for Mr. Nimbus's personality, who immediately offers the three-way to Jerry and Beth upon meeting him, and is very fickle when it comes to signing a peace treaty with Rick after he landed in his domain, aka the ocean. I also love that Mr. Nimbus has a horn that grants him extra power. While this doesn't allow him to control sea monsters like Namor's Horn of Proteus, it does grant him even greater strength than he had before. And it's definitely a reference to the Horn of Proteus, in my opinion. Number 1. Captain Namor. Captain Namor is the noir-verse version of Namor's character. In the reality of Earth 90214, Namor works for Tony Stark, venturing out to complete sea voyages for him on his ship, Dorma. Dorma for his ship is obviously a name that is a play on that of Namor's lover, Lady Dorma, from the 616 reality. It makes sense as a captain that his ship would have the name of a woman he loves in the main continuity, as most captains do love their ships well. The Dorma is a unique ship in that it appears as a fishing boat, but that's actually just a disguise. Dorma is really a submarine, which is pretty crazy for the noir-verse considering the time period. Or well, actually, did we have submarines back in the 30s? Probably we did, but not secret sneaky ones. Namor the Submariner captaining a submarine. I see what you did there.
Number 10. Thor of the Thunders. Thor of the Thunders is also known as the man named Donnell, an old man who hails from the reality of Earth 311, the world often referred to as 1602, which was created by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert. Thor of the Thunders was the godlike form that Donnell took upon slamming his artifact, a wooden stick, to the ground. The Doom of this reality attempted to steal this magical artifact but was unable to do so, as he dismissed the stick, which Donnell then used to transform into his Thor form. Thor of this reality is believed to be the god of storms, thunder, lightning, and agriculture. His very existence is considered very controversial considering the time period and the power and beliefs belonging to the Catholic Church. Number 9. Thunderstrike. Eric Masterson might not be around in the comics anymore, but when he was around, he was pretty powerful. He became merged with Thor Odinson for a time and at one point replaced him as Thor as well. Eric was considered worthy enough to wield Mjolnir, but is also known for his own specific weapon, which also inspires his superhero name of Thunderstrike, based on the Thunderstrike mace. Eric died before he could even fully comprehend all the power that the mace offered. One of the most powerful abilities it granted, though, in my opinion, was that of teleportation, allowing Eric to open up portals to anywhere he chose, even allowing him to travel to other dimensions, or possibly alternate realities. Trans-dimensional travel capabilities are always super OP to me, especially when they come from a time period where they weren't as clearly defined, meaning that they could basically be as limitless as the story required. Them's the best time for crazy powers. The times when we didn't have to define anything. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more like it, be sure to show us by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. ASGARDIAN. Billy Kaplan as Wiccan is definitely ramping up to be one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel multiverse, but before he was known as such, he went by a different name and style. When he was just starting out as a hero, Billy was a member of the Young Avengers, and inspired by Thor, took up the mantle of Asgardian, styling himself as such. The name didn't end up sticking, and only lasted for a few issues before he decided to change it to Wiccan in issue 6 of Young Avengers, which more suited his magic-based power set. However, it is important to note that Asgardians are known for being tied to magics as well, so while Billy was just starting out and the name didn't last long, in a way his magics do kind of tie him to the Asgardians, who are also sometimes known for being mystical. They are mystical, cosmic, and mythological, but it depends on the story as to which aspect is more highlighted. Billy, as Asgardian in this Thor Styles, is really only being ranked so low for his lesser ties to Thor, but power level wise at this point, he's pretty off the charts. Number 7. Groot Thor. Groot Thor is one of my favorite alternates. He appeared as one of the members of the Thor Corps on Battleworld. Other than the reality of Battleworld, we don't really know exactly where he comes from. He could even perhaps be a combination of two alternate characters for all we know. Anything is possible on the patchwork world of God Emperor Doom's Battleworld. Groot Thor, however, possesses the combined powers of both Thor and Groot, presumably from Earth 616, which would make him pretty crazy powerful, as both of those heroes are capable of great feats. So combine their abilities and you get one strong and capable character. Groot Thor ended up joining up with Jane Foster, who is also Thor, in the rebellion against God Emperor Doom, whom the Thor Corps originally worked for. Instead of only saying "I am Groot," he instead only speaks the phrase "I am Thor," which makes me laugh. It's great. I love Groot. He's one of my favorites. Number 6. RUNE Thor. RUNE Thor is one of the alternate Thors who appeared on Battleworld as a member of the Thor Corps. His fellow Thor ended up turning against him after they realized that RUNE Thor had turned pretty evil and was killing all the alternate Jane Fosters and Donald Blakes that he could find. RUNE Thor proved powerful enough to beat and eventually kill, as a result of his injuries, an alternate version of Beta Ray Bill, also part of the Thor Corps, who was known as Stormbreaker Ray. RUNE Thor, however, would also be taken down in the end by another member of the Thor Corps who was investigating the case involving the missing persons. The Janes, the Donalds, the missing persons. Number 5, Ultimate Thor. Thunderer Thorleif, as he was known during his Battleworld days, was the one responsible for defeating RUNE Thor and killing him in the end. This version of Thor initially forgot who he was, and for a while in the Ultimate line, he was just a nurse by the name of Thorleif Goleman, who believed he was human. In the end, however, Thor would begin to remember Asgard, experiencing what others believed were delusions. Even readers thought he might actually be going insane, and we weren't really sure if he was really Thor or if it was all in his head, but later on it was revealed that he was in fact the real deal, the Norse god of thunder, and the real Thor in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610. Thor was established as one of the most powerful characters in the entire Ultimate Universe, and even when he doesn't have his innate powers, which would later be restored to him by Odin, he has his EDI biomechanical suit to back him up, which grants him abilities and attributes similar to his godlike ones. Number 4, Goddess of Thunder. Jane Foster has been known by many different heroic mantles. One, she is a doctor, which kind of makes her like an everyday hero. That's like an everyday hero mantle. And 2, she is currently a Valkyrie and was one of the last Valkyries besides, well, until the return of the Valkyries, which kind of semi-randomly happened during the King in Black event. But in between, Jane Foster was known as Thor, taking up the mantle after Thor Odinson was deemed unworthy during the original Sin event. In many ways, Jane was considered to rival Thor in power, and at times even bested him. She also took up the mantle despite having cancer in her human form, and despite the fact that transforming into Thor basically canceled out the effects of her chemo, meaning that her cancer was only getting worse and worse from her transformations. So even though it was killing her, she was like, I'm still gonna be Thor. And man, you gotta respect Jane for that. That's pretty crazy. Number 3, MCU Thor. The Thor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe became so powerful that he didn't even need to have a hammer to use his power. This is a Thor who realized the power was inside him all along in Ragnarok, and despite becoming bro Thor in Avengers Endgame due to, well, his depression surrounding losing Asgard and then being unable to defeat Thanos, still was immensely powerful throughout that film. In fact, the Russo brothers confirmed in a post on Reddit that Bro Thor was no weaker than he was previous to this state, and he remained super powerful, but he was just going through some stuff at that time. In Avengers Infinity War, Thor was able to restart the Forge at Nidavellir with the help of Rocket, doing the unthinkable and holding the iris that focuses the neutron star within the Forge open himself, which meant he himself was hit with the star's powerful energy. Thor held the iris open long enough to ensure the top of Stormbreaker at least was forged, which when you think about it and you talk about it, it's kind of weird. But when it happened in the movie, you were like, oh, that's nice. Number 2, Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill deserves a lot of respect for just how powerful he is. So powerful, in fact, that even Odin was forced to recognize him after he bested Thor in combat. This happened back when Thor, being separated from his hammer, turned him back into Donald Blake. Remember those days? While he was separated from Mjolnir, Bill managed to get his hands on Blake's cane and summon Mjolnir's power for himself, being deemed worthy to wield it. This prompted Thor and Beta Ray Bill to battle over who should possess Mjolnir, and Beta Ray Bill was actually the victor of that fight. However, despite winning, and despite the fact that the fight was to the death, he decided to actually spare Thor's life. Odin decided to acknowledge his power, seeing how great of a warrior he was, and made him his own Asgardian weapon to wield moving forward, known as Stormbringer. Also, Scuttlebutt. I just like saying the name of that ship. Scuttlebutt. It's a good name. Number 1, King Thor. One of the most powerful alternate versions of Thor, hands down, has to be the alternate future version from Earth 14412, King Thor. This isn't just because of his power as ruler of Asgard and Allfather, a power which Thor would actually rename as the Thor Force once inherited, but this version of Thor has also bonded with and wielded the all-black Necro Sword, and was also known for a time by another, more powerful name and mantle, King Phoenix. This happened after Wolverine relinquished the Phoenix Force and thereby his life to supercharge Mjolnir in helping King Thor to defeat Doom, because that's basically what he needed. He needed the Phoenix Force to do that. Never fear though, after Doom was defeated, the Phoenix Force managed to later resurrect Logan because that's how the Phoenix Force do. So even though Logan was like, I give up my life and my power for you, Thor, he still gotta come back after.